I'm a photographer for a reason. I don't want to be in front of the. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I want to be behind it. So, my mom yesterday, she goes, I have an Olipop, right? And she's like,
Those
I'm
are
like,
bomb.
mm, so good. And she's like,
I like them better than poppies.
absolutely, I
Like
100% agree.
I think all of the poppy ones besides the rose, like the rose one,
Rose ones,
are
yeah,
trash. I take the
I,
rose one and I mix it with like tart cherry juice and ashwagandha
ooh,
at night, and that's like my nighttime. I can't drink right now, so
you gotta have something. You gotta have something going on.
I'm over here making up stuff.
You're like, let me just like a witch's brew. Let me just concoct something.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah.
No, but so she's like, "Are you drinking?" Because it was like 6 p.m. her time and 3 p.m. my time. She's like, "Are you drinking? Are you drinking?" I was like, "Drinking?" I was like, "It's a fake soda." I was like, "It's strawberry vanilla." I was like, "You're crazy," but I wish I'd been drinking because that interview was crazy. I can't wait. You're gonna have to
I want
watch
to see
that
it.
one. That's
Okay.
she went.
Yeah.
She's bucked every system. She's so bad. I love her.
Don't they say like after 45? My mom always said after 45, you just lose your filter.
Oh yeah. Oh, I told you. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna have to. I podcast you. I was like, I'm gonna have to edit some of these things out. Like, I can't put this on a YouTube channel. Like, I cannot put this on a YouTube channel. Oh my god. All right. I'm dying.
Mhm.
I'm gonna intro us in, introduce you, let you let you talk in the Chick-fil-A parking lot, my dear friend. I love it. I love that's
Mhm.
where you are. I love that that's
Yep,
where you
that's where I
are.
landed. Chick-fil-A.
Do a cheers. Chick-fil-A to Olipop. Chick-fil-A.
Cheers.
You got sweet tea? What do you got?
Yeah, don't tell your mother.
I won't. I won't. I promise. Hey guys, it's Vicki with Naturally Minded Sisters, and I'm here with one of my good friends, Taylor. She's back in Delaware, where I lived for about 10 years, and she's got a journey through Hashimoto's, a couple of birth stories, more than a couple, three birth stories, and sort of a going more natural, turning, towards a more natural lifestyle. So yeah, Taylor, just introduce yourself, and what do you want to start with? Do you want to start with birth stories, or I have some questions too, but do you want to start with your journey through Hashimoto's and turning to more functional, not functional medicine, but like turning to more natural ways in general, or what do you want to start
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Taylor. Hey. And I guess we could probably start more so with birth. I feel like once I had children, that's when a lot of my blinders came off and opened up, and then I don't know, when you have to protect other human little beings in this world, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, everything out here. What is all of this stuff?
with? Yeah.
Especially because I grew up not um through like the functional medicine like type of lifestyle. I grew up going to like the pediatrician on my scheduled times and all of that type of jazz, and then we also were like super poor, like grew up in the trenches. Okay. So a lot of things that weren't really, I guess, available to me, or I also feel like I was a 90s baby, so that really wasn't like, I feel like our parents just did what their parents did. And
Mm,
then it was like, I don't, what they, my grandmother did, so vaccinations and doctor's appointments and that type of stuff. And then my mom just kind of followed suit and was just going through. And like I said, we grew up super poor, so I think it was more of a fight or flight type of mode for her, and just kind of making sure that we were healthy. And if we were healthy and fed at the end of the day, then that was great, which was awesome. And it's been crazy now, like becoming a mother, just having that same thing of we all just want what's best for our children. So
yeah.
yeah.
So you had your first 11 years ago, right?
11 years ago. So my
Yeah.
oldest is 11, and I have had all of my babies in hospital. Um, so
And I know we're like
Yes.
I know we're very home birth over here, but like no judgment,
Yes.
obviously.
But I
So
have had all my babies in a hospital.
what was
Yeah.
your experience? And I love to hear everyone's experience, no matter where they birthed. If they were birthing in a car or a bus, like I want to hear, you know. So
Yeah.
what was
So
your
my
process of
Yeah.
birth
So
at
my
first?
first baby, I think, that first one, they're just trial and error babies, they're just we're learning, they're learning, that type of
Yeah.
stuff. They poor babies, Um,
Firstborn.
so
I know. I'm a
those
firstborn. I know.
firstborns, we're just trial and error. I'm a middle baby, but so I obviously my husband and we got pregnant super easy with my first. And I did, I think the first go around, it was every doctor's appointment that I needed to go to. I was like on the T, like I need to go every 4 weeks. I was like 4 weeks to the mark. I have to go, like that type of stuff. And then just kind of learning and whatnot through. And then I think it was around when you're in your third trimester. And it was all pretty simple. Like I had a very easy pregnancy with her. Um, I didn't have any complications, anything like that. I literally didn't even look pregnant until I was almost 8 months pregnant. Like it was
It's a blessing. That's a blessing.
ridiculous. Okay.
Well,
It
how old were
backfired on
you?
me the other two, but
Well, yeah. Well, you were young.
yeah.
You were pretty young, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
was 22.
Oh yeah,
Um,
young.
yeah.
Baby.
So I didn't
Baby.
even look like it until I was that amount. So, and I didn't even know that I was pregnant for a while. Like I was just like cruising along and I was 3.5 months pregnant. I think maybe that's what started it, where I was like, I need to go to all the doctor's appointments. I'm so behind. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
um, you know, so I feel like that's when you really like start to research stuff. And then I think it's like your third trimester, where they want you to get like a Tdap shot and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, what?
Mm, yeah.
So everything was pretty good up into to that point. And I was like, so I went to just a regular center where you had to visit all of the doctors because you didn't know who you were going
Oh
to
yeah.
have. Normally, like when you birth in a hospital, I think that's the norm. I don't know. That's how it's been with all pretty much of them. But
Makes
um,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, so you had to visit all of the doctors because you weren't sure which one that you were going to have, and it was doctors and midwives mixed in there. So yeah, my third trimester when they asked for like the Tdap thing, and I was like, what? What's that? Like, wait.
So you
And I was
were
like, no,
that was your first already 22 first baby. You're kind of like already like hitting a point where you're like I'm questioning what they're
yeah.
telling
And
me.
I was like,
Okay.
oh, I don't know. Like, they tell you not to eat lunch meat. Like, why am I going to put a shot? You
No,
know?
yeah, no
So, and I
sushi,
was
no sushi. You know.
Yeah, no sushi, don't eat lunch meat, like those types of stuff. They give you like this whole list of stuff. And I was like, okay, so I passed on that.
Mhm.
And then just kind of started to do a little bit more of like the research type of stuff. When they're first born, like you have to sign out a thing if you want them to have like a Hep B and a
Oh yeah.
vitamin K shot. And I was like, no, no, I don't think so. Um, they,
Yeah, they just came out.
they're just coming out. They
They're
just came out.
fine. I think they're fine. Yeah.
So that was just kind of something that really opened up to me, like was kind of like a window of things opening up. And I, out of like most of my closer friends and stuff like that, I was one of the first to have kids. So I didn't have anybody to really go off of
Yes.
either.
Okay.
I had an older cousin, two older, two of my older cousins, they had children, but they were just like, yeah, we did that. Like kind of like cruise through. And I was like,
Like yeah, no
all
big deal.
right,
Yeah,
like,
just went along with it. You know. Yeah.
yeah, and they were just like, yep, we just kind of went along. So, I opted out of both of those. So when I actually went into labor with Avery, who's my oldest, it was so crazy. I remember always just, like, joking around, saying like, "How do people not know that their water broke?" I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know your water broke?" Like, I was her, okay?
I
I
love
was
that.
her. So, I had Avery at 37 weeks, well, 36 weeks and 6 days. But I had her. And I was off. So I used to, at that time, I did restaurant management. And I had actually taken off that Sunday because I was like, I'm going to prep and start to like get ready for having a baby. We're going to have a baby in 3 weeks, you know? Um, and I was putting in a load of laundry and I just felt like this little trickle, like little tiny trickle. And I was like, oh, I must have to pee, you know? And I went and then I got back up. And one of the things I never researched or was never even told to me was like, when your water breaks, girl, you keep leaking. All right, no, it just does. It's not like water breaks, it's fine. That was it. No, you just keep leaking. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Hollywood has done us a disservice because they show us
Yes.
the puddle and it's always
Yeah.
before the baby and it's like only like one in 10 people I think their
Hmm.
water breaks before like labor starts. So, yeah, you're
Yeah.
one in, you're in the
Again,
majority. Yeah.
and I was like, that. So I got up, like, went to the bathroom, got up, and I was still leaking, and I was like, I'm not having any contractions. Like, what is going on with me? Going, and I just kind of continued the laundry, and then it's still going. And I like remember yelling to my husband upstairs, and I was like, "Hey, babe, I would know if my water broke, right?" And he was like, What do you mean?" Like,
He doesn't know.
so, yeah. And I was like, you think I would know? And I was like, this stuff just keeps leaking out of me.
Oh.
So yeah, like we kind of like fast forward then I jump in the shower and my husband at that point is like, I was like, maybe we should go and get checked out. So my husband at that point is like frantically like running around the house and like all of this stuff. And I'm upstairs in the shower and he comes up and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, dude, if we're getting ready to have a baby, like it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I can't go in like this. And it's just so funny because I had
Civic
like
week.
this whole, yeah, no, that was literally, it was crazy, Vicki. Okay. So I get in there,
I'm dying. I'm dying. I love it.
and I had a midwife and she was great. She was so amazing and just was like, I got in, they were like, yep, that was your water. You're 5.5 centimeters dilated. And I was like, well, this is weird. I still don't have contraction.
You're like, I'm halfway there. Let's go.
Yeah. And they were like, why don't you just walk around and all that stuff? So, girl, I was doing my hair. I straightened my hair. I put on
Oh god.
mascara and I was like, this is amazing. This is birth. Okay. By 7 centimeters, it was all done. Um, it
Okay.
was downhill from there.
Yeah.
Okay. By 7 centimeters, I was like, put me in the shower, put me in a hot shower on that bouncy ball. And I sat there for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
And to the point that the water just wasn't hot enough for me anymore. And I was like, this isn't doing it. Like, the pain is so bad, this, that, the other. And of course, my husband was like, I was like, at that point, I really wanted to be like, I don't want an epidural. I don't want an epidural. Um,
Well, you're
and
so
I,
close. At that point, you're so
yeah,
close. Yeah.
yeah. And I was, and I mean, I think because I went from literally like 0 to 100, where I was having nothing. And then it was like, bam. And I was like, no, I don't care what it is. You can give me them. Give me the epidural. Order it right now. I don't care.
Give me all the
So with her,
things.
yeah, I was like, like I'm no hero. Who am I? Um, so with my first, I did end up having an epidural, which I guess I had just an amazing anesthesiologist because I could move my legs all around the whole
Okay.
time. I had no
Okay.
pain, but I could move my legs all around. Um,
But you couldn't
but
feel. So your experience though,
yes,
you couldn't
so
feel. Where did it start? Where did like you couldn't feel from?
um, so
Like
I
is
couldn't feel like my contractions. I couldn't feel like in my stomach and stuff like that. And I also couldn't feel the I was 10 centimeters and I felt no urge to push at all. Like I sat at 10 centimeters for almost 2 hours
wow.
and they were just like, and I felt no urge to push. And at that point, I was breaching the over 12-hour mark from like my water breaking.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were like, maybe we should try and push, you know, like we'll
And you're
see.
10 centimeters too. So it's
Yeah,
like
you're 10
you're
centimeters. Maybe we should try and push. So I
yeah.
felt like, and that's where I was so grateful that I actually had a midwife, because obviously Hollywood, things like that, traditional, you birth a baby on your back, right?
Oh.
Um, no, girl, I birthed my baby squatting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I squatted her out. Um, and it was just that I feel like also really opened my eyes because then I was just when she had told me like, okay, we're going to transition you. You aren't feeling anything this way for being on your back. Why don't I raise your bed up and you can climb up and then squat down? And I was like, what?
You're like, I've never seen that. What is it? And you're young too, so it's like you know
Yeah, and I'm only
the
22.
preference.
And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay. So I get up there and I try it, and I was like, oh, okay. I got this. Like now I feel what I'm supposed to be doing. And like Avery came on out. She was a cone-headed baby because she did hang out in the birth canal for a little
Awesome.
bit.
Federal.
But
Yeah, John had
yeah,
that too.
yeah, she had like,
Yeah.
it wasn't even like this, honestly, Vic. It was here. It was like this,
He was sitting on the
like it
side.
came off the side of her head. Poor babes. Uh,
That's okay. It
she
goes
was
back.
cute.
It goes down. It goes down.
Yeah, but no, by the next day you didn't even see it. Like,
Oh yeah.
and she told me, she was like, I'm just gonna let you know, she's gonna come out with a cone head. Do not be alarmed. It will go away, but I don't want you to be frightened. She's gonna come out with a cone head. And I was
I
like,
love that she warned you ahead of time.
she did, yeah.
I love that.
Um, but yeah, I mean, she was great though. So I had her, and then Avery's birth was great. She was a precious little baby. She was such a little, she was an angel babe. She slept through the night at like 2.5 weeks old.
Ah,
Uh, yeah.
no, no, what
Oh,
everyone's gonna hate you for that. So just letting you
yes.
know.
Oh, trust me. I have two others, and it did not go that way
Yeah.
for the other two. Um, she was just great. Like I had no problems with her latching on, anything like that. She was just such an easygoing kid. Um, and then when she was 2 months old, she had her first seizure, and
Okay.
that
Yeah.
scared the absolute crap out of me. Obviously, I'm a new mom, and my 2 month old is like shaking. And I feel like that was another thing that like really opened me up. So at this time, like even when I had Eve, I should say, I was on this sense of I didn't want to do like shots for me or anything like that. For her, I still was like, I don't really know. So we always did like delayed vaccinations for her at first until she had her seizure. And then I was like, stop everything. Okay, like
Yeah.
we're not putting anything in her.
Yeah, because what's
But
causing the
then,
seizure? Exactly. You don't
yeah,
even know. You don't know what
we
it is.
have no history of epilepsy at all in my family or in my husband's family. Nothing like that. It was just like this crazy, bizarre, like, why is my 2 month old seizing? Um, so yeah, we kind of like started that, but I was still using a lot of un unnatural crap at my house. I was like this spokesperson for Bath and Body Works and
Oh,
um
Sarah and
all of
I.
that jazz, you know.
Sarah
Yeah,
and I,
like
we talked about how we were the last mall generation, and we were like our age. We went to the malls. And it was like
yeah,
you would always stop at Bath and Body Works, so you would walk by the
yeah.
thing and have like
And it's like
chemical reaction.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And I mean
yeah.
it was to the point that like I would burn them and I wouldn't even smell them. So I would just like add more and burn more. Like I was so like desensitized, I guess, to it. And so yeah, it was like that and the wax melts. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Same thing. Like I'm pretty sure you're only supposed to add like one of those little wax melts into the warmers. I'm
Oh
pretty
no.
sure at one point I was putting in like four,
You know
like
this.
burning everything out. So
What's four
yeah,
times the
like
cancer?
just
4 times the cancer. It's fine.
yes, four
Yeah.
times the cancer. Like, all the stuff. So and at that point, like I feel like that was kind of like a thing where that stuff was like being introduced of like organic this, organic that, and I was totally the person who was like organic. They just put that on there to raise the prices so you pay more. Like, and that was my, cue of it. But then like I said, you have kids and you're like, holy crap. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
I
it's like
wanted
this.
all of the good smelly stuff, like Dreft, baby wash.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
dude, I don't even care now. You can't, there's nothing that smells better than Dreft. There is literally, why does it have to have so much crap in it? But nothing like smells like a fresh darn baby. And I would bathe everything in it. Like anything that she was touching, I was touching, any of the stuff, like all of it. Thinking that like this is good for my baby. This is good for my baby. And and just really starting to once she had her seizure is when I really started to like open up and like look more into what was going on, like our more of like our family history. Do we have any of that? And then what around us could affect, or those types of stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, like I just started digging into to rabbit holes and
Yeah.
about how like these candles and all this jazz are terrible, and these like synthetic like fragrances and all of this stuff are just like so bad and gives you like chemical imbalances and all this jazz. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I like ditched. That was my first thing to go, was candles.
Huh. Okay.
Um, and I went through and just started with essential oils, but I still had the. So it's crazy. Like your body almost has to like heal from all
Oh.
of the scents that you're putting into it. So when I switched to essential oils, it was like, yes, I was using a non-synthetic like chemical product, but I still was in that mindset that I had to have 4 wax melts in my wax warmer to smell it. So I'm
Yeah.
like
It's so,
dosing like
it's hard. Yeah. No, I
way
get it.
too much
Yep.
essential oils in my diffusers so that my body can smell it because I've done fried everything up there, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
there was a great. I read a book. What was this? By the he's a magician because I'm a weirdo. And Penn Jillette, Penn and Teller.
okay,
I read a book that he wrote about losing weight, and he goes on this diet for 2 weeks. He only eats potatoes,
okay.
nothing else. And then he said the next thing that he introduced was corn, and he said that corn tasted like candy. And that's what you're
Mm,
talking about. You're talking about the same thing. It's like when you're used to
yeah,
4 wax melts, and you need that.
yeah.
You're just and
Uh,
when we're eating the standard American diet, you're just used to all these things. When you go back to basics and you're eating only
mhm.
potatoes, for example,
Yeah,
that's all you're that's you get this reset of. It might have been longer than 2 weeks too. It was, I don't know. I just remember he did like potato diet and he eats like only potatoes for a
yeah.
certain amount of time. And he said when he tasted corn, it tasted like candy, and he thought someone was tricking him. He was like, "What did you do to this corn? Did you put sugar on this corn?" But that's the same thing. Your body does if you take the time and
Mhm.
retrain your body to taste or smell
Yeah,
something, then you do get you get the essential oil, you get the corn. It does taste like candy. It's way sweeter
yeah,
than it. Right? If you had just eaten corn 3 weeks ago, it would have tasted like whatever. Because
yeah.
but it's so it was. He said it was so sweet because I had just eaten potatoes for however long. So I think that's the same thing. I think you're right. I think you do need to retrain your body when it's like, especially when you're so used like 4 wax. I love that you're like, oh,
4 flipping wax melt.
you're like, and then 75 candles, like at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
girl, I had
you'd
a
be
whole
overloaded, overloaded.
cabinet for candles every
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
I'm telling you, it
You
was
would be,
terrible.
yeah. You would be
So
so overloaded. Your olfactory bulb and your would be so overloaded that yeah, I'm surprised that. Well, I mean, it makes sense that you would still need more essential oils than anything
yeah,
else.
so and
Like
then you kept digging. They were like, "Oh, well, even though you're using essential oils, you shouldn't be dosing like half the bottle in there. That's also not good for you." Okay.
not great, not great.
Public. So,
Excuse
yeah,
me.
I feel like that's kind of where it really started, was of switching out stuff. Was after that it came the candles, and then it was digging in more to like everything I was putting on our body, what we were washing our clothes in, um, what we were putting on our baby, like
Yeah.
those types of stuff. Like
So
we switched like
your natural journey started a little bit before, like basically when you got pregnant. Is that
yeah,
the
yeah.
okay? Because you
Mhm.
were like questioning the doctors wanting to give you a Tdap shot. Then you were like,
Mhm.
then Abe's born, and you're like, oh, she's having a seizure. You're like, no, everything's
Yeah.
stop the draft, stop the candles.
Yeah, I mean
So
literally everything stopped. I
yeah,
quit using like diapers. I clothed her.
okay,
I was like, no, pull the diapers, pull everything. Like,
okay,
because she would get like these rashes and stuff, and I'm like, it's chemical burns. Like, like
yeah.
it's it's
Get
from the
rid of everything.
Pampers.
Yeah, Pampers
And
out.
they had a set, and I was like, get rid of it all. Like, all of it's got to go. um, so
That
yeah,
makes
and
so much
we
sense. I love knowing where people switch because or like
yeah,
where the turn is. Now for me,
uh-huh,
my mom was more naturally minded. We kind of grew up half crunchy, if you want to call it that. But like me and Julie each had our own turn as well. Like I had
Hmm.
cancer, total turn, and Julie had a home birth transfer to a hospital, and then a
Hmm.
C-section, total turn that direct. So
Yeah.
we had our upbringing, but then we had these individual
Right.
reasons to even go more, not more crazy, but to go more natural. And and it's funny, not funny, but it's interesting to hear where people, when people decide to, like, when they turn as well, because I know when I did, I know when Julie did, I know when all these people.
Hmm.
And so to hear like yours is like, when I got pregnant, I was like, now I have someone else to think about. and
Hmm.
and then she started seizing, and then you're like, okay, now everything's out of here. It's like, throw the house out,
Yeah.
like throw everything out. Like,
Literally,
yeah.
literally just throw my house
so
out.
so
Um,
I love that. I love hearing that. I don't think I knew that was when you started exactly
yeah.
being natural. I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, I know that she had seizures, and I know that journey, but I don't
Hmm.
think I knew that was like when you were pregnant. That was your first. I'm gonna
Hmm.
turn this way
Like
a little
kind of,
bit. Yeah,
yeah,
and then
yeah. And then
poor
when that
age,
happened, I was just like,
and then you're gone.
get rid
It's
of,
gone. Yeah,
yeah.
throw everything out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely with everything like that went on us and that went with that. And then I think more so throughout the years, it became more and more of like food.
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
so more so,
Now, when did you find out you had like thyroid issues?
so when I found I had thyroid was actually after my third baby.
Okay, so way
It was
recent.
after
Yeah.
Adley.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so after I had Bryson, which was also a hospital, he was born by a doctor, but she's the most amazing OB. Like I wish everybody could have her as a good like experience.
Mm.
So as like if you were to have a hospital type of birth, she's just great. I still like we talk all the time now, still
Oh.
today. Like she's just one of those doctors that she left the practice that I had Avery at and started her own because she didn't like
Okay.
um
Yeah.
how the system was. And she was like, I don't like it. I don't like the affiliation with the hospital. So she was allowed rights in the hospital, but I guess there's a difference in like when your practice is under the hospital.
Yeah.
Um,
You'd have to follow the protocols of that.
all of their protocols
Yeah.
and rules and different things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So when I had Bryson, so I, of course, was like, let me get that epidural, you know? I'm no hero here. Well, it didn't work. Um, it
Uh,
didn't. It didn't work. So I was, cruising all along and I got it. And like I still felt stuff here on my right
yeah.
side. And then things went from 0 to 100 real quick again. And just remember like the anesthesiologist coming in, like they checked me, they were like, "You're only at a 7." And I was like, "Okay." Like I still feel it. The anesthesiologist came in, he was like, "No, it looks good." And he just kind of like looked at me go through like a couple like contractions where I'm pretty sure I joke about it because at the hospital that I was at, it was the maternity ward, and then above the maternity ward was the ICU unit. And I was
Mm.
like, I will revive the people up there. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm telling you, like this is no joke to me. And so she kind of like came in and she was like, "Look, girl, you're about 8.5. Let's start." And she was like, "You will feel better pushing through them, moving. You got to move. Like if you're just sitting there." And I was like, just a really good like birthing coach because I feel like for me, my instinct when I'm in pain is I crunch up and then
Oh
I
yeah,
just
and
want to
that's
like
bad.
stay
Yeah.
and stay
Yeah.
still. And she's like, "We got to get you moving. Like move. Like that's if it's not like it's not working, but that's fine. You're a boss and you can do it." And like we're gonna go through.
Absolutely.
So she was great. She was so amazing. And such an easy birth with her. And then actually after or with him, with Bryson, after I had Bryson, I got really bad postpartum anxiety
Mm-hmm.
um, with him, and she was amazing throughout that whole process. She gave me like her personal number and was like, "Just call me whenever," and that type of stuff. So it was like I feel like I tell people I don't really remember like the first month of Bryson's life. Just
Oh wow.
from like my postpartum anxiety, I just remember being in that fight or flight type of mode, like when she would call and different things like that. She was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, like, are you taking care of yourself?" And I was just like, No." Like, I didn't come out of my room for probably 2.5 weeks. My husband had a baby monitor on me
Oh.
at that time to
No,
like
and
look at me.
this didn't happen with Avery. You had no
And
postpartum
it
anxiety.
didn't happen with Avery. And I was like, what in the world? Like, it was just, and it was instant. Like, after I had him, it was like I would flash back to my birth. But my birth was amazing. He was so easy. And I was just like, I have nothing to be, and I still don't what trauma, I don't know. Trauma's weird, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't bad at all. I delivered him in 45 minutes. Like, he came out, he was fine, he was perfect, he was healthy,
Yeah.
and all of that type of stuff. And then I was just like, okay. But yeah, I just had really bad postpartum anxiety with him, and I
Hmm.
just hard, I don't know, months to come on through. And then it was like
Yeah.
once I got over that, I started getting super bad joint pain. And at first I was just like, okay, like growing up, I used to always have like pain, like arthritis like type of pain like in my ankles or in my knees or those
Yeah.
types of stuff, and I've always been like that, especially like when it rained or got super cold really fast, like that type of stuff. Well, I was getting it in my elbows, and it was like
Hmm.
this weird like deep pain, so people would be like, does heat help it? I'm like, no. And it's like,
Hmm.
it's not, it's like the pain that you would grab for, but like even grabbing and pressing on it or that type of stuff, like you wouldn't feel it. It was just really, really deep pain. And it went on for a little while to the point that I couldn't even hold Bryson for a long period of time. And
Oh.
he was a little baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like a
Yeah.
7 pound little thing
Yeah.
that I couldn't hold him because he would hurt my arms even more. Um, and I had made an appointment with just our regular primary care, and she ran all of these like panels and stuff like that. Like when you tell somebody you have like joint pain, she like was running like panels for the certain cancers and all this jazz. And I was like,
Yeah. Like probably like
what?
lupus and yeah.
Yeah. So I came back with like a positive ANA at the time, which is a marker for lupus.
Ah.
Yeah. So, and she referred me out to a rheumatologist, and
Okay.
I went and I'd seen him, so he kind of just like went over and he was like, "Yeah, you do. It can fluctuate.
Hmm.
It can go dormant. It can come back. Those types of stuff. Like, what is the?" And he also gave me a pretty like more natural approach, and he was like, "I want you to take some turmeric, and I want
Okay.
you to, take some." Um, it was a certain, I can't even remember, like vitamin that had all of the jazz in it. And he was like, and I want you to tell your husband that you need monthly massages. Like, and he was like, and if you need me to write it down, I will.
Yeah.
Um,
Perfect. Perfect
and
excuse.
as far as like, yeah, for like pain and different things like that. And he was like, you need to end your day in a bubble bath, in a warm bath. And I was just like, this dude's great. Like, um,
Can I get a
because also at the
prescription for
time,
bubble baths, please? Like,
yeah, because he was like, "There's not much." I was breastfeeding at the time, and he was like,
oh yeah.
"We can't give you anything," But
Oh yeah.
which was great. I felt like for him of not. I feel like today's world, like some doctors are so easy to just write off somebody for their pain and having like severe joint pain to the point that you can't hold your child
Yeah.
and stuff. And that I felt like was another big door opener for me. I felt like that one was more of what food am I ingesting? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and is it causing like inflammatory responses?
Yes.
Um, my son also, Bryson had really, really bad eczema when he was born.
Oh.
So, and
Okay.
he flared instantly out. Um,
Hmm.
at the hospital, and the pediatrician who had looked at him was like, he's going to have super sensitive skin. And she wasn't wrong at all. So, and at that time I was like, oh, well, we don't use anything, so this is fine,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we don't use anything that's like fragrance wise or anything like that. And I was like, no problem here. Like, she was like, don't use any fragrances. And I was like, check, we're good. All
We
right.
already have
We can
that.
move
We're
along.
already clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But his skin was just so inflamed, and it to the point that his whole little body got like so inflamed and under all of his little creases and folds and stuff like that. And we found out that he had a milk sensitivity.
Mm.
So I cut dairy
Yep.
and at that
That's one of
point
those.
for a
That's one of those things. Like, my sister-in-law just had a baby like 3 months ago, and her first her first kid, she had to cut like I think dairy and gluten. I think both because it was
yeah.
the same thing. It was like all of a sudden we're getting this rash, and then not just the face but also the body, and the doctor told her, well, that looks like a heat rash, and she
Mm,
reaches out to me and my mom and my sister and is like, is this a heat rash or what is this? We're like, that's dairy. And then
yeah.
and so that was her first, and she hated it because she's like big, like mac and cheese, and like, I mean,
Girl.
most people, have
Yeah.
eat dairy, and then she goes like 2 months ago, her 1 month old, she sends us a picture of a rash. Is this a heat rash? Because the doctor said it was a heat rash again, but she already knows in
Nah,
her head.
girl.
Yeah, she's like, it was dairy. I feel like that's the first thing, almost always, that my
Mhm.
mom, after 30 years of working in birth, would say to people, if the baby has a weird rash, cut your dairy. Number one thing. Like, first thing you
Yeah.
do, cut your dairy. So now, when you
Yeah.
cut dairy, did that help the eczema for him, for Bryson?
Yes, yeah, it did. His was so bad, at one point, like it was like bleeding.
Hmm.
Um, so,
Same for me.
and it took a while for me to like pull the dairy out. Obviously, dairy takes like a month to get out of your system.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and just like getting him, but once we did that, he was great. He was dandy. He was a terrible baby, but he was, a part of it, his poor body was inflamed. So,
Poor baby. I know. Poor thing.
he cried all the time. So yeah, I felt like that was when I really started to think of, well, what am I putting in my body now that I'm like coming out with like joint pain and those types of stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of like moving forward then, I would get blood work every 6 months for my ANA to just kind of monitor it and see how
Sure.
it was going. Sometimes it would show up positive, sometimes it would show up negative.
Hmm.
I always seen that it would flare up a little bit more during like my hormonal type of cycle. So once I started to actually get a period again, I would notice that it would
Oh,
flare
okay.
up a little when I was getting closer to that. And then when we had started to try again for a third baby, um, we had two miscarriages, and it was the same thing right after I would have those miscarriages and that drop in your hormones and stuff like that, it would flare up really bad. Um,
Oh, okay.
so once we got pregnant with Adley, then it was kind of like one of those things where I was just preparing myself to have a bad flare up. I had a great pregnancy with her, same thing. Like, um, she didn't really cause me any issues. No, that is a lie. She did cause me really bad, like,
You're like, never mind.
um,
I remember now.
I had like that, oh my goodness. I had like this peri-oral, like this dermatitis that it was all hormonal, um, all on my face. And it was like a raccoon's face. And it was,
So at
I
this
was
point,
red.
I knew you at this
You knew
point.
me then. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I had this raccoon, it had blisters on it. And it was just, it was so, it was so bad. Um, And I would go to like the doctor and they're like, oh, I think it's hormonal. Like, and I went to like a dermatologist and she was like, we can give you this topical type of stuff, but typically with something like that, we would treat you internally and topically.
Uh,
And she was like, but you're pregnant.
but you're pregnant again. Yeah. Every time you need help, every time you need something, you're pregnant and you can't get help.
You're pregnant. You can't have any of that. So I think it was called, what was it? Metronidazole, I
Oh
think
yeah.
is what like yeah, they gave me for my face and it really didn't do like much at all. That and she was the summer baby and sunscreen makes it worse. Sunscreen would make it so bad so I couldn't even put
Poor thing.
sunscreen on my face. So I would like walk around with like one of those big sombrero type of hats when we were out and about and
Yes. Just to
yeah, with the things
cover
because
it
I
all.
couldn't really put sunscreen on me and it would burn.
Oh,
Um, but lo and behold, the second that Adley came out, days later, it literally cleared up. Days later.
It's so
and I was,
crazy. It's so crazy the things that happen. That was like my wrist. I had
yeah.
my wrist locked up with John,
Hmm.
and or I, no, my not my wrist per se, but my this part, my thumb, and
Hmm.
I couldn't. Your thumb's supposed to be over here. You can move your thumb, right? And I couldn't move
Yeah.
my thumb. It was like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't move it. It was stuck.
Oh.
I go in, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's de Quervain's tenosynovitis." I was like, "I'm sorry, excuse me, what is that?" Like they're all like,
A
"It's
foreign
fine.
language.
Yeah, you're fine. It's de Quervain's tenosynovitis. Get
Yeah.
out of here, you crazy person." And I was like, "Where did it come from?" I'm like 6 months pregnant. I'm like, "Yeah, we call that mommy thumb." I'm sorry, you call that mommy thumb? Yeah, yeah, because sometimes it happens because of inflammation in our bodies. When we get pregnant, we get the
Yeah.
pregnant nose, we get the pregnant ankles. You had a pregnant face, like,
Yeah. It was
and
bad, girl. It was
and
bad.
and that's the thing. It's like no one tells you. There's no book ever that has ever told me that my thumb is going to be stuck. No one ever told me mommy
Hmm.
thumb exists. Probably no one ever told you, or you never heard of like your face going crazy at a
My
raccoon
whole
face.
face being,
Yeah,
yes, it was
it's this
terrible.
stuff that happens to
Um,
pregnant women. There's so much stuff that can happen to you when you're pregnant, and
yeah.
nobody talks about it. No one's like, "Don't."
Like
Yeah.
these kids, I'm telling you, they change everything about you. All of
Oh.
it. Your
Oh
whole
yeah.
DNA. Everything that you once could do, you may not be able to do. Or in
Absolutely.
some cases, I will say, I was always sensitive to coconut. After I had Avery, I have no sensitivity to coconut. I used to break out in a rash. Isn't that weird? Uh,
What?
and after I had Avery, nothing. None.
How?
Like,
Like you
yeah.
wonder. There's so many weird things that happen
What are they
when you
doing
are.
in there, you know?
Yeah, they're in there cooking and things are happening.
Like
It's
touching certain things.
yeah, it's so crazy. It is so
Yeah.
crazy. There's just so much stuff like that that I I'm never. I guess I'm not I'm not like. I'm not even shocked by your face story because it make yeah, when you're pregnant anything can happen. My thumb gets
Yeah.
stuck and I can't move my thumb. I had to go to therapy and then I had to have surgery because I got a scar because in 7 months of physical therapy I couldn't get it past here, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna need surgery. 15-minute surgery, it's fixed, but like no one ever told me. I'd never heard
Hmm.
of. I had like might need a wrist thumb surgery because I
Right.
got pregnant. What?
Right. Yeah,
Like
you
and
didn't
one of
even
the
have an actual injury.
I didn't do anything. I just got pregnant. All I did was get pregnant. My your
I
your
did what
crime,
my God-given body asked me to do.
your crime, your crime for raccoon face is getting pregnant. My crime was stuck thumb. Or my crime is get pregnant. You get a stuck thumb. It's like what did we even do? We didn't even do anything. So I know I'm
Yeah.
not even shocked by that. But just anyone listening, my word, don't be surprised by anything that happens to you because
Yeah.
anything can happen to you while you're pregnant,
Hmm.
and it's just
Absolutely.
it's so bizarre. Oh my gosh. So raccoon face goes away, but then this is
Yeah.
where so postpartum with
Yeah.
Adley this is when you find your
This
Hashimoto's.
is
Yeah.
when, yeah. So that's when my Hashimoto's and stuff started to start up. I also, I guess I would backtrack too. She was a hospital type of birth, and I will, same thing, mad props if you can find a really good one. Adley wasn't breathing when she was first born.
Ah.
Um, and not good.
Not
They should
great.
do that for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
she might be breathing.
so they, the hospital that I was at didn't have an actual NICU. They were more of like a stabilize and transfer you
Okay.
hospital.
Yeah.
Um, and they tried to give her like some oxygen, and then when they would take her off of the oxygen, her stats would drop super low, different things like that.
Mm.
So after like 2 hours, her stats were still dropping. They were like, "Hey, we need to transfer her." And I was like, "Okay, uh, all right." So at that point, you're kind of like flipping out because the hospital that you have doesn't have a NICU.
Yeah.
They're transferring your baby, and I'm just like, "Well, what about me?"
Yeah.
At that point. Um, like where are we go? Like, what are we doing? And this was kind of like where the doctor that I had, she was allowed to have, I guess, birthing rights at the hospital, but wasn't like an affiliate under that umbrella. But the nurses were, and the nurses were like, well,
Mm.
typically the baby will get transferred, and then when we discharge you tomorrow, you can get transferred. And I was like,
Oh,
no,
yeah, no.
that's not happening. So I was 3 hours post having Adley, and my doctor comes in and she's like, "I'm discharging you. They've lost their mind. Like, I'm not type of deal. And I was like, I was leaving
Well,
regardless.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
not staying here.
breastfeeding is so important in
Yes.
those that first day,
Y-
to get that milk spike, and
yeah.
they're gonna try to take you from your baby.
Yeah.
Like,
So the nurse
what?
was kind of like, we'll bring in a pump for you. And then my doctor at the time, I had said, you need to go get Holly. Like, go get her. And they were like, she's doing a C-section. She's an emergency C-section. And I was like, okay, well, when she comes out, we can get her. And she came in and she was like, no, you're leaving. And
Bye.
like,
Yeah, I
here
know.
you go. And
Yeah.
she was like, I'm discharging you and you're going to another hospital. This is your third child. Like, you know, if X, Y, and Z, if you're bleeding this amount, like you seem fine,
Yeah.
you're going with your kid.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
so yeah,
great.
which
Which
I,
is amazing.
yeah, which is great
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
don't feel like sometimes when people look at like that, there's hospital experiences and stuff like that of being your own advocate and then also just finding a good doctor who is
Yeah.
on your side too.
Yeah.
Um, where it is hard to find unless you I feel like nowadays of going into like the functional medicine or different things like that when you're just going through like a regular like OB doctor and not having like a midwife and a birthing and a home experience and stuff like that where they're really listening to everything you have like say to find one who like really listens to like what you say and is a good advocate
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
But
I remember I had a friend who had a child that had a seizure in the within like a few hours of birth,
um
and they transferred the baby immediately
yeah.
to some children's hospital. And she
Hmm.
had a C-section, and so she's not supposed to leave for like 3 days. And she said,
Yeah.
"I don't care. I don't care what. I don't care if I'm bleeding out my stitches. Like, I'm going." And she went.
Right.
She discharged herself because they wouldn't discharge her. She left. She was
Yeah.
like, "I'm out." So
Yeah.
it's it would be better if somebody had been an advocate for her, like you had an advocate for you, because
Yeah.
you need to be with that baby. You need to be with your baby,
Exactly.
especially a sick
Yeah.
baby, and you need to be either pumping or breastfeeding or something for that baby, or they're just going to stick him on formula, and then he's going to have some reaction, another reaction. He's already having a seizure. You know what I mean? So I think I've heard of people who just left. Like she just left.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm out because
Right.
they wouldn't discharge her. She just left. Um, but you were lucky to have someone who was like smart and was like,
Yeah. She was like, no, absolutely.
you
You're
need
going
to
with your child. Like,
go. Yeah. Now, how far
yeah.
away? How far away was the transfer? Like, was it pretty?
Christiana. So I was down at BB.
Oh,
So Christiana
okay.
was like an hour and a half away.
It was
Um,
okay.
yeah, because originally, they were like, it was either going to be Kent or Christiana. Kent had a NICU, but it wasn't that you could stay in the room with your
Okay.
baby. It was like a NICU I guess, unit,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
wasn't rooms. Versus Christiana was a bigger hospital, and then each baby had their own room, and the parent could stay in the room with them.
Okay. Yeah. Makes
Um,
sense.
so tra- we got transferred to that one. And yeah, and that was great. But of course, I was at that time expecting my joints to flare up.
Yeah.
And right on cue, they did. So I guess I should say Adley was fine, y'all. Like she was great. She did a really quick turnaround. She was breathing completely on her own 24 hours after she was born. I just didn't, she came out too fast and she didn't get a good enough squeeze. So
You
she
got
just had some fluid in her
squeezed.
lungs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't, yeah, she just, third baby, she just,
Oh, slide out.
she, my body just said, here we go, we know what we're doing here. And she just didn't get a good enough squeeze. But, out of her. So once they kind of got her lungs all dried up and good to go, she did a really quick turnaround in there.
Nice.
Um, but so yeah, we were discharged. We only spent like 3 days, I think, up there, and then discharged, and came home. And obviously, like shortly after that, it was like, okay, I'm gonna have this joint pain. So again, joint pain starts to flare on up, and I just kind of made a call into my rheumatologist and was like, hey, can we check the levels, see, where we're at? Like, I didn't have any of my levels tested while I was pregnant the whole time.
Mm.
Um, so, and that's when he had called me back and was like, your ANA is a little high. And he was like, but your thyroid is off the chart.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
so, and he was actually the one who had told me about it. And he was like, your thyroid levels, I think they're supposed to be like underneath a 4 or something, 3 or 4. And mine was 120. Um,
You're like,
so,
oh, oh, so I have some
and
other
he was
problems here.
like,
Yeah. Oh,
they're way off the charts.
oh,
So he was like, I sent this over to your primary care. Same day, that same day, my primary care called me and was like, yep, this is what you have. They had just told me I had hypothyroidism at the time,
okay.
and I didn't have any appointment with them, nothing like that. It was solely a phone conversation, and was like, we're gonna put you on levothyroxetine, and it will help level you out. You will have to be on it for the rest of your life. And it could take 4 to 6 weeks to kick in. And I was like, wait, what?
That's a lot.
Like,
Yeah. You're like,
backtrack. Meanwhile, like,
whoa.
I've never had any medical conditions, throughout my life. So for one, like, same thing, like thyroid, that type of stuff. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, what is levothyroxetine? Like, and she was like, oh, it's a synthetic hormone. And I was like, synthetic, like motor oil? Like,
Like
what?
fake.
And I was like, that doesn't sound right, because when you say synthetic, like, I'm telling you right now, I just think of motor oil. Like, do you want synthetic or non-synthetic oil?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You're like, it's
like, and I was like, what is any of this?
something is a chem, maybe a
And they were
chemical.
like, yeah, it's a man-made hormone. And I was like, there's no like natural hormones that you can take for it. And I was like, there's no natural like approach that you can take to like see if my body will correct itself. And they're just like, nope, that's is it.
Yeah,
And I
because
was
by this
like,
time you're already like you're like naturally minded. You're like you've gone
yes,
through
yeah. By this time,
all
yeah,
the things.
mhm,
Avery's seizing, Bryson's got eczema. You know,
eczema, you know,
Adley isn't breathing.
Adley's not breathing.
You're like, what next? But no, so
What's going on?
you I love that you it was kind of the small like not small slow process of like okay
Uh-huh.
products are going and then we're getting
Yeah,
into food
foods and stuff.
and
And
then you're getting this
now,
diagnosis with then they're saying there's nothing else to do. There's nothing we can
yeah,
because I mean I don't knock on doctors a lot like well I do but uh, but it's like I feel like they just can't keep up with every disease and every new potential protocol for
hmm
every disease. They just can't. The amount of
they
reading they
can't.
have to
And
do.
especially like with a
Yeah,
family doctor and stuff
exactly.
like that. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So
They can't. And
they're just gonna
with,
what they know and which is mostly
yep,
who's coming to them. They're being marketed these drugs
hmm
by I mean pharmacy are they I don't want to say lobbyists it's like those pharmacy
yeah,
people that come in to be like hey our company has a new drug for this disease and
yeah, like the
here's
reps
a
and stuff. Yep.
yeah the reps that's what it was and
That's, yeah,
yeah I was like is it lobbyist oh, like the only word that came to
reps,
mind it is
pharmaceutical
reps
reps. There
yes
we go.
but yeah so they just know what's kind of like coming into them they can that's like a physical thing otherwise it's just they have to sit and read either online or in a medical journal of every new way to treat x y and z and there's just there's too many problems to keep up with so yeah I mean
Yeah,
I it's a I feel like the system fails us a lot in that regard
yeah,
but that and
absolutely.
but for you that's you're getting someone who's just like yeah no here's this is it this is the prescription that's I and buy because there's nothing else she can do for you or
Yeah. So that's when I really started to like dig into, okay, like the thyroid and everything that the thyroid controls. And
mm-hmm.
spoiler alert, guys, it controls everything. Absolutely everything.
It's a lot it's a lot it's important it's an important thing
It's really important for something to be so common to fail in our society. It is actually one of the like number one leading things to fail. Especially like within women
oh
and
yeah
stuff like that. And it is just a common thing. And it is the most understudied thing ever that people, they just don't know. They don't know why it's failing. They don't know how to treat you. And they treat you with like a synthetic medication and expect it to be a one size fits all. So a lot of these people who are going through and getting these medications like levothyroxetine or like a synthroid or things like that are just like it is giving your body the hormone that it is not having. So then
Yeah.
you look fine on blood work
Oh
because
yeah.
you're giving it, but you're still having all of these symptoms. And that was kind of like where I had landed. So I was taking at first like this levothyroxetine type of deal, and I was like looking fine on blood work. But I was still having such crazy symptoms of like mad anxiety, extreme like depression. My hair was falling out in chunks. I mean, like I would have to pull the hair from my drain to continue to rinse my hair.
Oof.
Um,
And that's these
and
were these normal side effects for the medication.
of your thyroid, not the
Oh, oh,
yeah,
oh.
of just
Okay.
your thyroid,
Of
like
your thyroid failing. Okay.
yeah, of those types of stuff. And I was just like, this isn't working. So I tried it for 3 weeks and I was like, this isn't working. It's not doing anything. So I cut it. I was something I felt so uneasy about taking it. Um, at that time, I just kind of felt like I was like in a corner. And
Mm.
when especially when you're super anxious and you're super depressed and you're like, what do I do? And you feel like you're at wit's end and we try something, then that doesn't work. So that's when I really started to look at, I first had started to see a naturopathic doctor.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I had that written down because I was like, I remember you seeing a naturopath and wanted to know your experience with that.
yeah. So, and she's great. She's tough. Um, but she really did help educate me more so on my thyroid. And she was the one who had kind of like we went through and I'd seen her and she was like, you actually have Hashimoto's.
Oh.
And
Oh,
had
so she
gone
was
through
the
and
one. She was the one who said,
yeah.
okay.
And she was like, unfortunately, with Hashimoto's, we can't get rid of it, but we can manage it for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so for a while, I tried to just do things, and she kind of let you know right off the gate that we may not be able to fully restore your thyroid and get your thyroid to make the hormone again, but we can certainly try and support it and see if it will. Um,
Mm.
and mine didn't, but of
Well,
course.
you
So,
know.
but then she also gave me more insight of a natural hormone. So it's one that's it's called Armor, and it's a pig hormone.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that's
Interesting.
what I take to help manage my thyroid. But and even through that, I was kind of taking that for a while, and her protocols. She was really good at like educating me with that. And then this last part of her protocol was like this detox type of stuff. And of course, I was breastfeeding at the time.
Mm.
I couldn't get a lot of the panels and testing and things like that done. I think I had like a heavy metal test done with her and another test like my adrenals and things like that. But when
Yeah.
you're breastfeeding, I couldn't get a hormone panel done
Yeah.
or anything like that because we all know that we weren't going to get
Yeah. It's gonna be the numbers are gonna
good
be off.
results.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that type of stuff. So her last like thing was this detox type of protocol and being just a mom of three, and battling out through just like extreme like just depression and anxiety and stuff like that. I felt like I just kind of like crashed with that. I was like, this is too much. I can't do it. I
Mm.
I can't sweat in 4 times out of the week and do all like this liver cleansing and it was just so much type of stuff. And I was like, I just can't do it. So then I just kind of like cruised, I think, for the last year and a half of kind of managing stuff myself. And
Well,
for the most part, I
I was
felt
gonna
like
say
I
we did a detox together last year,
yes, yeah,
or like
we did a detox
um
together.
or
And
or what
that is
more of a
yeah
diet,
one
I
of
guess. Diet, right? It was like
yeah
the what's that called? Is it the autoimmune diet?
reset.
Reset. Oh,
Yes, uh,
metabolic reset. We did metabolic reset.
metabolic reset. Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So yeah, we had did that together. The first thing I feel like when they tell you you have thyroid type of issues, and my first thing when I had met with Kim, the naturopathic, she was like, you have to cut gluten and you have to cut dairy. and soy, and
And
and refined
sugar
sugars.
and
Um,
fun. I cut the
yes,
alcohol, cut the fun, cut
and yeah, and caffeine,
the alcohol. Yeah.
and alcohol. So I had did that with her, and then I kind of just stayed off of gluten. I would notice more so that my joints would start to ache a little bit more when I was eating gluten.
Mm.
And I felt like I just kind of coasted like that with taking this and then not doing gluten. Then me and you did the metabolic type of reset because I was also still, I think at that point I was still having like some hair loss and like dry skin. Um, and just abnormal bleeding. And I was like, yeah, let's do another like reset type of thing together. Um, and unfortunately, it didn't do anything for me. But
Yeah. That was the same for me, remember? I was like, I had that.
yes,
I forget what was going on, but I was like, you were like, oh, I need to go off gluten again. I don't feel well. And I was like, I don't
yeah,
feel well. But for me, I think a lot of it was I had just moved. I had been 20 months by myself on John's deployment, and I was just like, moved to the desert. And I'm like, ugh. I just didn't feel well like,
yeah,
overall, like mentally even. But I remember there was something, I must have been something else, but I said, I think I need to do a reset. And you were like, I'll do it. Let's do it together. And so we did.
yeah.
But
So
uh, that was fun. And now you're back on the diet, the same diet,
I
right? Pretty
am.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. So yep, I started seeing your mama,
Yeah.
and I am currently still in the process of that to try and just figure out more so, I guess, I have some leaky gut type of issues and
Pretty
then
much everyone does, so
probably
don't
some
worry.
hormonal things. Of just really trying to figure the abnormalness of my abnormal bleeding, which is like my main thing where I'm just like I've had so many tests done just like through my like regular gynecologist and OB that I just have abnormal cervical bleeding. Um,
Mm.
but my uterus looks great. It's fine. It's beautiful. It could produce other babies. It will not.
You're like, I'm not again.
But
No, not that.
yeah, and I just had this crazy type of deal. But when a lot of research and stuff like that just says that it stems back of um thyroid issues and that it could be from your thyroid. So, yeah, it's really crazy that the hold that this little tiny butterfly thing has and how it affects you and stuff like that. So I feel like I've just since this has kind of happened to me, I've just been this huge advocate for moms and things like that because it does happen a lot after birth. It seems to be this like more common thing of a hormonal change like after birth. And then even so, when you really research and get down in it, that most autoimmune conditions stem from like a lot of stress on the body
Yeah.
and trauma and things like that. And like I said, I grew up in the trenches. And so I'm just like, I think of just a lot of healing that has to come from just not saying like healing my body, but healing young me and healing emotional me, the things that I thought were healed. But when you get diagnoses like this and then you're doing research and they're like, oh, you know, trauma and childhood things, and it just kind of like brings up some of those things again where I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh look. So I mean for me personally, I have had daddy issues and um have had my father like walk out on us and I didn't have him. So like when I got diagnosed with my Hashimoto's and a thyroid condition and like one of the things that you look up and you're just like trauma and a lot of stress on the body and things like that. And I'm just like, oh look, it's another thing that you gave me. It, like being my first response instead of being like more healing in that aspect of something I thought I had already healed from.
Yeah.
So I like to tell people I'm just like just make sure that like you deal with that stuff and heal the childhood you and
Yeah.
emotionally and stuff like that of going forward because you carry that stuff into your adult years
Yeah.
and you
That's
can only like
very important. Very important. Yeah.
push that stuff down so much before it all comes up and things that you may not realize that you've like pushed down and dormant and things like that so much eventually it's got to come out. You know that saying, "What must come up must come. What comes up must come down," or something like that. It's like the same thing, like that childhood trauma or any trauma for that. It's going to come out in one way or another, and your body suffers from it.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I you know what? I
and
was
kind of
just
getting through.
it just dawned on me. I was talking to Sarah, did an interview with Sarah
Yeah.
that's going to actually be up today on the channel. And her husband had thyroid cancer. And when I talked to
Hmm.
her, I thought, you know, it's so funny. I was like, I had cervical cancer, and I don't know a single person personally that had cervical cancer. And I know a ton of people. Like I could like a 10 name list of people I know personally who have Hashimoto's or thyroid
Hmm.
cancer or had their thyroid out or thyroid issues or thyroid. It's so prevalent right now, and like you were saying, you're not, you know, no one really knows what's causing everyone's specific
Hmm.
issues. But I if I my first interview Hashimoto's, second interview Hashimoto's, uh third interview thyroid cancer, and you
Yeah.
Hashimoto's. Four interview out of
And
five
yeah.
interviews, four people have
Hmm.
stories of thyroid issues. So this is something
Yeah.
that's a like an epidemic, pandemic
Yeah.
kind of, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And it
Yeah.
just kind of learning about it and taking care of yourself, and that even starts with your thyroid, of saying, to get rid of that, those fake fragrances and what you're putting
Oh
on
yeah.
your body and what you're absorbing into your body, those fragrant lotions and different things like that, perfumes that we're spraying right here, and
Yeah,
you know
literally.
it
Yeah.
just like soaking into your body, where you think that, like, what could it do? I smell fine, or what, like, fine. I'm just smelling good. That you wouldn't think that this perfume or these soaps or different things like that I'm using could affect me, but it's absorbing into your body and just slowly you're just killing
Yeah.
thyroids.
Yeah,
Like,
my mom
just
calls it. She'll say, I told her some. I was like, oh hey, like my, you know, somebody I went to high school with just had their thyroid out for thyroid cancer, and she's like, well, she fried it. She's like, she fried it,
mhm,
and I was like, that's her saying for that is, you fry your thyroid with,
you
like you
do.
said, all these things and all these, you know, chemicals and fragrances and um, I mean, I mean, there's so much. It's just stress, like you said, stress, childhood trauma. Like
Stress.
there's so much. I mean, and
Mhm.
you know, I told Sarah. Well, and you would know too. I told you when it happened. I had when I did functional testing last year. I had low thyroid function, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh no. I'm like, I've probably got Hashimoto's like everyone else in the world, and it just, you know,
Yeah.
turned out to be, you know, they did all my T levels and stuff, and it was fine. But it was like the doctor was like, every mom of young kids has low thyroid function. Uh, but it's a matter of, if you just, like you said, take care of yourself, please. Like
Hmm.
somebody has to tell these people, tell everyone, like moms,
Yeah.
dads, everybody, take care of yourself. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, there's a lot of self care stuff out there. People are, you know, mumbo jumbo per se, but it's as simple as like making sure you eat enough, drink enough water. I mean, you see
Hmm.
me drinking. I'm in the desert. I'm dry as anything, so I'm just drinking water all the time. But you know, just like you said, going through that childhood trauma or going through whatever's stopping you from feeling better or feeling okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's I mean, there's an emphasis on that for sure, I think, in our country, but
Hmm.
I don't think there's I don't want to say there's not enough, because I feel like I hear it all the time. You probably do too. It's like some Instagram or Facebook, and everyone's like, yeah, like take care of yourself, but like, does anyone do it, or do they say take care of yourself, but how should you take care of yourself? What should you
Yeah.
do? You
Yeah.
know?
What should you do to
Yeah,
take care
yeah.
of
So it is.
yourself and things like that? And especially, I feel like it starts with dealing with, if you had issues, like, even as young, or you know that you haven't felt like that you've dealt with or really healed from, just try and, like, start there, whether that's seeing a therapist or different things like that, because you carry that. And especially then, when you have that childhood, you who have maybe has gone through something, and then you become a parent, you relive that all again
Oh
through your
yeah,
children.
yeah.
And if you haven't healed that person, healed that kid, or things like that, then you're also trying to just have this mindset of, I'm just going to do everything that I can to avoid what happened to me so it doesn't happen to my kids, like that type of mindset instead of just going through and saying, addressing what had happened to you,
Yeah.
knowing you like, hey, yeah, I was dealt a crappy hand of cards, and healing from that, and then not trying to revert that onto our kids now, unintentionally. Like, obviously, as
Yeah.
most of us, we just want to love and we want the best things for our children. Um, of going back through that and then protecting, ourselves emotionally, protecting ourselves physically, and then protecting, ourselves just as a whole. And I mean, I feel like even as moms and stuff like that, it's so hard, especially when you're just like, take care of yourself, and you're like, yeah, I can't even pee in private. How am I going to take care
Oh,
of myself?
right.
So we know, like,
I'm dying.
gosh, I got little hands underneath the door. My kids know how to unlock the door. Do you think
Yes.
that? I need
Yes.
different locks.
They take, actually, it's, oh, they don't have any right now, but they have the little tiny, they're not on the thing. I have a Trackmaster Superstation right to my left here from
Yeah.
Thomas, right? There's the little Thomas minis, and they found that the couple,
Mm-hmm.
the what do they call it, the couple or whatever hooks to the back, it's just a little
Yeah.
tiny U, and they put it
Yeah.
in the lock and turn it, and they open the locks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. They're
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean,
You can't go to the bathroom by yourself. I
you can't.
I almost had a heart attack. I don't. I might have told you this. I forgot. I don't know if I did. Lucy came into the shower or came in my bathroom. I listened to podcasts,
Yeah, you did.
either yours
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a podcast from some Michael Knowles on the Daily Wire or something. And I have my Bluetooth speaker in the shower, so it's making enough noise. I didn't hear the door open. I'm in the shower just washing my hair, and the shower curtain goes whoosh, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ah! I was like, oh my god, some murder! Someone's coming to kill me. It's little tiny
Yeah.
Lou, tiny little
It's just
peanut.
kid.
Here, mom. Here, look at this drawing. I'm like, I literally thought I was about to die. Like you can't. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like these are the things that happen. That the stress level, you can go from I'm in the shower, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm fine, everything's
Yeah.
happy, I'm healthy, and then you feel like you're about
Mm-hmm.
to die. So when your kid opens a shower curtain, and you just the stress levels of being a parent, really, just not a mom. I mean, stay-at-home mom, I think, has a different level of stress than any job in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but even just in general, a parent, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress. So yeah, like you said, it's you just find take care of yourself, but
Yeah.
find out what you need to do. Like don't just
Yeah.
the mantra of like self care is great, but
Don't
don't
feel like
let
you have to do it all at one time. Like, just
yeah
start off small. Like,
start
I need 5 minutes
somewhere.
to myself. Mom's gonna go take a 5 minute walk with nobody.
Yeah, you can even
Y'all
be
can chill
oh
here.
yeah oh yeah,
You
and
know,
I learned that hard when John was gone. Um,
yeah.
when he was deployed, I remember one time I was they were in here. Lucy was in a playpen, or they weren't here because this is Vegas, but they were in the house. John was watching a show. Lucy was in the playpen, and I was like, I am losing my mind. And
Hmm.
I walked out the front door, got into my car. I sat in my car in silence for like I think you said like 5 minutes, and I was just like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
Silence. But then it doesn't take long for you to go, oh, I need to go back in because they're so little. They
Yeah.
can't take care of themselves. You can't leave for too long. But well, at least with your husband deployed. But yeah, no, it's as simple as and that's the thing. Sometimes I lock the door and then to go to the bathroom, and they start jiggling the handle. Right, you just hear
Hmm.
the handle, and you're just like, and then you're like,
Just leave me alone.
I'm re-stressed. Like I'm just trying to pee,
Yeah.
but can I please do it alone? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah. Same.
not.
I mean, yeah, I
It's
get it.
the
I
stress is
also say the
yeah.
same too. A lot of the times when I'm like super stimulated and I'm overstressed and stuff like that, I'm just like, half the time I didn't eat properly. So I'm like, you need to go grab yourself a snack, girl.
Oh
Go
yeah,
grab yourself a snack.
get getting
It'll make you feel
hangry.
better. Throw some snacks to the kids because we know they eat all the time.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. So just grab a snack and just go sit in the bathroom for a minute or go outside for a second while they're doing it. It is super hard when they're tiny. I think I have right now a pretty good age gap with an 11, 5, and almost 3 year old. So I can tell my 11-year-old to just sit and
Yes.
make sure that the
Make
other two don't,
watch the
yeah, watch them for a second. And I just need to go take a minute to regroup myself because I mean, especially, as moms and stuff like that, we are on 24/7,
Oh yeah.
just on
It's
24/7. Whether you're a working mom or a stay-at-home mom, like the job just it doesn't end. There's no clock out, or
I mean,
anything. And when they're tiny and need you for every little thing, it is hard to get in that self-care, but making yourself a priority, it, by making yourself a priority will help you in the long run of being a better mom and feeling better about yourself too
yeah.
and
Well,
what you're doing because you're
and
doing
being
a
able to
great job,
yeah.
but you're overstimulated, you're overwhelmed and things like that, and by just taking that time and having
Yeah.
that self-care.
Making
Hmm.
sure, I mean, like, if you can't take care of yourself,
Hmm.
then how are and your body is failing, like how are you supposed to take care
Yeah,
of your tiny humans,
your
you know?
children. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
it's very, very important for sure. All right, so a few more questions and then we'll wrap this up. But let me think here. So, did you get one of the questions I ask people usually is like, did you get any pushback or any funny looks from family or friends when you went when you started doing things more naturally? Like, is that I feel like there's a stigma because like if you do something
Yeah.
different, like you go against the grain, people are always like, what? Sarah specifically, she called it extra. She's like, I just tell people I'm extra. We're extra.
Yep.
And yeah, and a lot of it picky. You know, she said we're a lot of it picky, and I'm like, yeah, oh, I know that game. But then
Yes.
you get the grandma, you get the uncle, you get the friend, or you know, and they go, what you do what? Like you don't do this or you do this, and I feel like people get more pushback for going against the
Yeah.
grain. Yeah. So have you felt that at
So
all?
yeah, I mean, not so much of like, why do you do that? Or like, you're wrong for doing that, but just the, wait, what? Like, um, so, and I feel like, a lot of, even my family, my cousins and I are all very close in age. And of course, I was the first one to stop vaccinations, and such. And now, some of them who are like having kids and such are reaching out to me and it's like, hey, which is for one just so bizarre and crazy to me. I don't know how this is in most states, but there's a lot of pediatricians within our state who will refuse to see you if you
Oh,
do not follow the
that's
vaccination schedule.
that's everywhere.
Like,
That's not just Delaware. That's
I was
everywhere.
like, so the pediatrician that we had originally had seen started to sign, I guess, implement that, a few years ago. And we dipped. We were like, well, not a spot for us here. So, you won't see us anyway. So, and so, yeah, so now I have like just some of my friends who are having babies and things like that. And they're like, hey, where do you go? What do you do? Um, and just asking so much of like questions, like going into school, like, hey, did you have any issues?
Oh yeah.
With school and those types of things. And luckily, my kids went to a small little private school for a little while, and they didn't ask any questions, but they were just a small Christian private school. But I do know that Delaware at least has like a religious exemption, that
Yes.
you
Yeah.
can use. So,
Almost every
and
state.
just
I think it's California, New York, and maybe Illinois. There's only a few states that don't have exemptions. There's California. I know
makes
even
sense.
even a California, even a doc. If you have a reaction to a vaccine in California, medical reaction, you
Yeah.
have to you have to have it, I think, 6 or 7 times before they give you a medical exemption. It's some crazy number. They will not even they no religious exemption. And if you literally have a seizure after they give you a vaccine, you can't even get an exemption until you have like 7 seizures. You have to have like 6 or 7. It was some number that I was like, more
What?
than it was more than 5. It was more than 5 times. And California
That's
is
insane.
a crap hole in general
Yeah, I
for a
was
lot.
about to say.
Yeah, for a lot
Yeah.
of reasons. But New York also, I know, is one of those states where, and I know this from military. People get stationed in New York. People get stationed in California, and they go, what are my options? We're getting stationed in California, and my kids are school age, and I can't homeschool. What are the options for exemptions? And they're like, there are none. You will not be able to send your kid to a public school in California without a vaccination, without full up to date 72
Vaccinations.
shots, by the time they're 12.
Wow.
So, yeah, no. So let me tell you, I know too much about it, unfortunately, mainly because of the military. But yeah, Delaware,
Yeah.
they did have exemptions, religious exemptions.
Yeah.
I know that because when John went to speech therapy through
Mm-hmm.
the state program, it was in the school,
Yeah.
and they asked for his vaccination record, and I was like, doesn't have one. Like, and then they asked for his lead
None.
test. Did you have the lead test done for your kids?
So actually the only time that I did a lead test was actually for Bryson, and it really wasn't even for the lead part. I mean, they did test it, but you get it when you're like 9 months old, they added in for dairy. They were like,
Okay.
he is due for a lead test, but we can test him for dairy if you would like to do it, and we can just do the prick here in the office. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. Like,
Yeah.
but so yeah, he's the only one who has had that. But I have heard, in which I haven't personally dealt with it, but I've heard that in Delaware that is, I don't know how that is with school systems, but the one pediatrician had told me that they may fight you back on a lead
Yeah.
test, and I was like, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. That's what they told me. I
Hmm.
was in Delaware with both my kids when they were that
Hmm.
age of, it was 9 or 12 months or something, where they were like, we need to do a lead test for school. I was like, they're 1 year old or less then.
Hmm.
And I was like, also, I'm homeschooling. So I don't care what the school
Yeah.
system says in Delaware, which a state that I'm just stationed in. I'm not going to be here forever. And yeah, he was like, yeah, well, the schools will not let you in without a lead test. I said, why? I was like, and they said it was because,
It's banned.
yeah,
Like,
well, they were saying if you have higher levels of lead in your bloodstream, that you're gonna, basically, they're gonna put you in the special ed classes because they figure that you're just gonna be not as bright, I guess, as the other kids. That was what I was told, and I said, so if you have a
because our
higher
kids are going around chewing on our baseboards and
well, yeah,
stuff and
I was like,
being exposed to lead paint.
yeah, I
And
said, you're gonna stick. What if? So they have a
and
higher
what, your
exposure of lead.
2000s house?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Where there's no lead paint, and they're gonna
Where there's no
stick
lead.
you. So I had an
Lead
exemption
paint
for.
is crazy. Um, so that was one thing. It's actually super hard to get certified. When I was an
Well,
indoor
yeah, you did,
environmentalist,
yeah.
hey,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we would do lead testing and such like that. And that was one test that one certification I didn't want to get because I was like, no, it is for one very hard. The rules and regulations and laws for it are just absolutely crazy. For daycares, ridiculous
Mm.
that what they have to go through and get. I mean, just crazy. And I remember my boss would always like press on like, "Oh, let's get you lead certified. Let's get you lead certified." I'm like, "No, I'm not interested."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's a raise I'll do without. Okay.
There was. I've only ever heard of one case of lead poisoning in my generation, in our generation of like
Hmm.
this age. And it was somebody who lived in a house that was just old, and the kid would literally pick the paint off the picket fence,
The
and
windowsills and
or so,
stuff,
yeah,
probably.
and
Yeah.
and eat the paint. And they
Yeah.
were they were immigrants, and the kid was so used to eating things that weren't food, because like regular food,
Oh.
because they were
Yeah.
like food
Yeah.
starved where they came from. So she was like 3 or 4 and just would eat anything she could eat. So
Oh.
she ate, she picked off paint, um, and ate it, unfortunately. So, and then she had lead poisoning. So, but
Oh.
that's like the only case I've ever heard of lead. And then
Yeah.
I get to Delaware, and that's the second time I've ever heard of lead anywhere. And they're like trying to force me to do. And back then, John was old enough. They're like, it wasn't a prick on a finger. It was, you have to go to LabCorp or Quest Diagnostics
Yeah. Yep.
and get. And they
Hmm.
said it was a full vial of blood. They were going to have to stick a hole and
Hmm.
get a hole. I said, no, 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 no. He had just
Yes. Um.
he must have been, it must be 9 months old, because he had just been bitten by a dog, and had right here on above his eye,
Hmm.
and so he had just been in the hospital. He was sleeping in his bed, like his crib, without us anymore. He was finally out of our bed. We co-slept for a
Yeah.
while. Finally out of the bed after the hospital. He spent another month in our bed. he after the bite and the hospital and the
Hmm.
ER, he was totally traumatized. Back in our bed for a month. I get him back in his bed after a month, and the doctor's like, "We need to you need to go to LabCorp and get a full vial of blood for this blood test." I was like, "Absolutely not."
It's not
So,
happening.
no.
But yeah. So I feel like I've gotten, I guess, more positive kickback on the vaccine side. But I get a little I guess like joking around when it comes to food and
Ah,
such. So
yeah,
like when we're going out and about birthday parties, that type of stuff, like my kids are very vocal on things where there's like that has dye in it, I'm not allowed to have it. And so, they get the surrounding parts of like the chuckle
yeah.
um within it. So, or even some things like they'll bring out, and I'm terrible when I go into people's houses. I don't care who you are. If you're burning a candle, I go and I put the top on it. I'm like, okay, there you
It's
go.
done. It's gone. Do your kids come
Because
up to
it's
you and go like, "Hey, can I have this?" Because my kids do that. They're
yeah,
like, "Can I have this?" Like,
they're like, does this have dye in it?
yeah.
Yes. Am I allowed to have this?
Okay, I'm
And
not the only one
yeah,
then.
yeah. So it was so crazy when I don't ever take my kids to the grocery store. I just do like pickup orders, and
Mm.
we were going Bryson wanted to come with me yesterday, and we're like going through the aisles. And I think those are the funniest where people just kind of look at you and you're going through the aisles, and Bryson's trying to have a full-on shopping spree because we don't go into grocery stores
Yeah.
since that's the one good thing that ever came out of COVID was grocery pickup. Okay.
Oh, absolutely,
For a
absolutely.
mother. Um, so I had gone in and he's like going through and picking up the things. Can I have this? Does this have dye? This looks good. And I'm like, you can't have that. You can't. He picked up like a thing of Lucky Charms and was like, what are these? These look good. And I'm like, it's not happening.
No.
So yeah, I get like, I guess a little bit of like a chuckle, like joking kickback from those types of stuff, but never anything that's just like, you're ridiculous or,
Wow.
that type of that type of jazz.
Yeah.
It's just make sure you don't give Taylor's kids this. That they're all organic over there.
I know,
Like
right?
that type of stuff. Or I'm the one who's like with questions, like sunscreen and stuff like that. Hey, like what sunscreen do you use? Or we just went to the beach. Is this sunscreen bad? And I'm like, do you want me to tell you the truth? Like,
Gotta be careful.
um,
Gotta be careful when you ask
yes,
those
your
questions.
Neutrogena sucks. Okay.
Yeah. I know
um,
it's so bad. They actually I just
But
saw
and
an
I do
ad.
try to say at the same, I was like, you can't just like ditch everything all at once. It is a very
Oh yeah.
slow, like it is if you don't grow up, it is a slow process. Like
Yeah.
don't like I tell them like, oh well, what should I use? And I'm like, well, you should finish that out because you bought it, and then maybe
Yes.
try this one next time. Like,
Yes.
don't
Absolutely.
like it's better than the alternative of being out 90 degrees and being sunburnt to the highest of heavens and uncomfortable and all that jazz. But just make sure you shower when you get home, please. Like,
Yeah. No, that's
yeah.
one thing Sarah and I talked about the other day was stepping stones. It's
Yeah,
one step at a time. It's a very uh it's a slow process. It is a slow
it
process.
is.
I mean, you can't if you
Mhm.
have enough money, sure,
Mhm.
toss everything. But it's like you switch from plastic to glass or
Mhm.
plastic cutting boards to wooden cutting boards or bamboo or stainless steel cutting boards.
Yeah.
You can't do it all at once. When you realize what's around you,
Mhm.
products, eh, kitchen things, whatever it is, food,
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot to switch, and I
it
I,
is.
I agree with the same thing you said about. To me, I I remember thinking when I started switching stuff out really hardcore after cancer. I was like, oh well, I already have this bottle of shaving cream. I should just use it, right? Be a good steward.
Mhm.
I'd already bought it, and then I'll switch. And
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Me and Julie talk about a lot with Naturally Minded Sisters is that you should just when you finish out a product then you can find a new alternative.
Look for yeah,
Yeah.
look for a
So
better alternative. Mhm.
because peanut butter might last a certain amount of time, shaving gel might last a certain amount of time. You're not switching everything all at once, and you just okay
Yeah.
now the peanut butter's empty. I'm gonna buy a better peanut butter brand. Now the shaving
Yeah.
gel's gone. I'm gonna buy a better one of those, and I think
Yeah.
that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
It's one
Mhm.
step at a time, one product at a
Yeah.
time, one food at a time. I mean, just skipping out. Even have you seen the late July chips that have the nacho cheese? They're like the healthier version of Doritos, right? Like
Yeah,
nacho
no,
cheese.
girl, I
I
can't
just
have cheese. Okay.
I know. It's got dairy and I probably has dairy. I didn't look. But my husband, his big thing is he loves Doritos, and so I found this
Hmm.
literally like last week, and
Okay.
I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna buy this
They're called,
healthier. They're Late July is the chip brand, and it was Late July nacho cheese, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy it. I'm just gonna see what happened, like if he likes
yeah,
it. And he was like, these are better than regular Doritos,
really.
and
I'm gonna have to look them up. That's
this
one
is
thing that Bryson always asks for is Doritos, the Cool Ranch Doritos. And I'm like, you can't have them. I'm sorry, baby.
I know, yeah, and
Like, because I'm also, I will say, like, I'm the type of mom where if we're out and about and we're at a birthday party and there's a bowl of chips on the table, that's, I am not like, you can't stop everything. You can't eat,
yeah,
you can't protect them from everything. So,
a little,
type of
yeah.
deal. Yeah,
There's
a
there's an
little bit isn't good.
80-20, 90-10, right? The rule of
Yeah,
like
80
there's a
20. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
So, but yes, he had the Cool Ranch Dorito chips at my cousin's and he loves them. He wants them. Like, we had seen them yesterday and he was like, "Can I have those?" And I was like, and I looked on the back of them. Cool Ranch Doritos are just the same. They are the color of a tortilla chip. They're not even like that red like a Dorito. They still have dyes in them. They
They
have
just
they still have like they have red 40 and blue and yellow and I'm like, but they don't even have color.
like why
I
even
said,
put that in?
yeah,
It's amazing to look like if you don't read ingredients on something and then you do,
yeah,
and you're like, why does this
yeah.
have this? And there's no reason. To me, there's no reason
Hmm.
why some of that stuff even has dye in it, or not just dye
Yeah,
because, and that's the thing, chemical dyes we can read
yeah.
on a PubMed and the other website I can't think of the name of, but it's like you can read medical journal studies on the internet that are
Hmm.
like these dyes are linked to these cancers, or these
Yeah,
dyes are linked to children over, they call it ADHD,
yeah.
but
Like
I call it,
behavioral and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, I call it, it's a child and it's just full of sugar and dye. Like,
yeah.
and that's what ADHD
And
is to
it's
me because
yeah, it is. And my
it didn't
kids
exist
will,
when we were little.
yeah.
Um,
My kids, I ask the same thing. They're like, "Well, why do they put it in this food?" And I'm like, "Maybe I wish I knew. I
yeah,
wish I knew. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I don't know. I mean, we
don't know."
kind of know.
Yeah.
We can make our guesses. Money.
Yes. Yes. Nothing I
But
can explain to a 5-year-old.
nothing. Yeah, you can't explain
Yep.
corporate greed to a 5-year-old.
Yep.
Corporate. Yeah, well, see, they lobbied the companies to make sure that they could get their chemicals. Yeah, it's not going to work. Uh, Goodness gracious. Well, I've kept you for long enough. You've got to get home. I know.
Yeah.
Uh, you got a babysitter, and my husband's in the back with the kids, as always, watching them while I do my
They've
interview.
been so great. I
I
haven't heard a peep out of them.
I stick all three of them in the back room. They got a bathroom back there connected to the
Mm-hmm.
bedroom. They bring their toys, snacks, drinks, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Mommy, I'll come get you when I'm done." So bless their hearts.
There you go.
Uh, they
We're what, an hour and 45 minutes in. They're definitely running out of snacks. Okay.
they're out of. Oh yeah, they've actually come out before and during interviews, and I've edited it out, but they've come out like we ran out of snacks. They did. Gosh,
Oh.
that was like 3 interviews ago. They're like, "We need more food, Mom." I was like, it's been 45 minutes. You ate all your food, so. But kids will eat you out of house and home. So
That they will. That they will.
listen. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming on and taking the time in the Chick-fil-A parking lot to
absolutely.
to hang out and talk a little bit about your birth stories and your health journey, and you're still on it. Like everywhere again,
Yeah.
we never arrive, but I know you're still working towards it. And yeah, hopefully some functional medicine just fixes you right up. Hopefully it's just a quick little hormone problem that we can take care of and you're good to go.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That
Awesome.
would
All
be
right.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching or listening. And if you have any questions, comments about Hashimoto's, thyroid issues, comment below and we'll get back to you.